Before the video starts, I want to say that my Radical Red AI guide for 2.3a is obviously now outdated. And so with this series I plan on showcasing the still working Nuzlocke strategies and the newer and better AI. Feel free to comment down below your favorite go-to strat. So I lead with Dreadnought to get rid of Kleavor's Focus Sash with Flip Turn. Then I go Illumise to Encore Stealth Rock. Encore is always 3 turns in Radical Red. Then I defog to get rid of rocks. We can know that this will switch to Scizor in advance simply because the metal bug resists all our moves and has an OKO move on Illumise. I go into more detail after the fight. If you can't wait, then fast forward to this time. Scizor will always go for Bullet Punch here, as I intentionally made my Illumise's nature minus defense. So I just go to Blaziken for some resistances and the easy OKO on the metal bug. AI goes for Kleavor because it can now see the kill with Bulldoze. But I got quick attack, so it's fine. Next up is Araquanid, so I turn off my brain and I switch to 60% Frillish. Shout out to Runnin' for the strat. Simply watching his streams legit gives you AI knowledge. Out of all the streamers, he's the one with the most hours on this game and is currently doing a Deathlock, which essentially means 1 death equals reset run, so check his streams out. AI goes for Heracross, so I switch to Battle Armor Berserker to tank and fake out. And then to Illumise for some resistances. I Encore Brick Break, and we know that AI will switch to Scyther because the AI can now see the OKO with Aerial Ace. Too late though, as I clicked on Roost. Now that I'm full HP, AI won't see the kill anymore and will always set up, thanks to Koba Berry. I didn't want to risk anything, so I went for non-damaging move and then Encore. AI didn't switch, but it doesn't matter at all, as we can unalive the flying bug after 3 lunges. Araquanid comes out, so I go Frillish and spam Nightshade. AI goes for Heracross, so I pivot Berserker fake out. Lastly, I go to Illumise for some resistances. Vikavolt is honestly fodder thanks to Lantern. By the way, if you want to get my team sets, their natures and items, you can check them out on my docs website. Before the video ends, let's talk about the AI exploits. If you didn't know, Radical Red AI uses this list to decide which Mon it's going to switch into after losing a Mon and before losing a Mon. Here is the summarized version of the list so that it's easier to understand. Simply, you have to look at the list as an addition of different modifiers for the switch-in score. So, if AI Mon can kill, that's a switch-in score of +4. If AI Mon can resist all your moves, that's also a switch-in score of +4. If AI Mon can revenge kill, that's a switch-in score of +2. All of them makes the highest score of +10. If AI Mon has a super effective move on player's Mon, that's a switch-in score of +1. This will only count if the super effective move is not an OKO move. However, if the AI Mon is weak to one of your moves, that's a switch-in score of -1. Feel free to take a screenshot of the list. Let's now talk about the AI's first switch. AI went to Scizor after I encored the Kleavor. The AI switch-in scores would have looked like this. Scizor gets a score of +4 for resisting all my moves. Important tip, the AI does not see the typings of moves that don't do damage. So here the AI is only seeing Lunge, which is obviously resisted by Scizor. Another important tip, the AI needs to resist all 4 moves to get +4, meaning if the AI resists only 3 moves, it will be a score of 0. Since my Illumise is minus defense, the AI should see the 93% OKO range bullet punch, so Scizor gets a score of +8. And since it's a priority move, it counts as revenge kill, the Metal Bug gets a total score of +10. Scyther gets a score of +4 for resisting all my moves. And +1 for having a super effective move on Illumise. Keep in mind that I have Koba Berry. Heracross does have a super effective move on Illumise, so it gets a score of +1. But if let's say it had another super effective move, the switch-in score would always and still be +1. Araquanid gets a total score of +4 for having an OKO move on Illumise. Just theoretically, let's say that Vikavolt has a score of +10. If Vikavolt did have a score of +10, the AI would bring Scizor next as the team order decides the next Mon of the AI. But yes, Vikavolt gets a score of 0 for having no OKO move, no super effective move and no resistances. This is why it's really nice to have official updated docs, as even knowing the order of the team can be quite helpful. And please consider the list as the basics, the standard. It obviously doesn't have everything about the AI switch mechanics. There are a lot of other AI mechanics that aren't present in the list, and I plan on taking note of all of them on my website and featuring them in this series. I don't plan on always explaining every single AI switch, as I've already explained about them on my AI switch mechanics video. I'll just be talking about the more interesting parts. Next is Scizor always going bullet punch on Blaziken. Basically, if the player has an OKO move on the AI and can outspeed, the AI would always go for the priority move. Also, if both Mons have the same speed, the AI would always still go for the priority move. It won't take any risks. So you can abuse this by just setting up something like Focus Energy, Yawn, or by simply just healing yourself too. Lastly, my most favorite exploit is the Resist Berries. Basically, if you have a Resist Berry for the super effective move, the AI will never click on it unless of course it still does the most damage out of the 4. But if the AI has a setup move, it will always set up, so pair the exploit with Encore and it'll be a game changer. That's it for today, hope I was able to help you. Thanks for watching and have a good day.